So I like to start every group process just to say who I am. I'm Michael Trapp. I have an MA in sociology from the University of Toledo, and I am a co-occurring disorders professional. I am a third year city council representative for the city of Columbia. Yay, Columbia. I think Como rocks, and I'm proud of our response, how we've all pulled together to take on this challenge. We've, and as we look back, we could see lots of areas where if we knew then what we know now, we might have done some things differently. But we can't worry about that. We can't worry about blame and pointing fingers. It's important that we pull together and we manage it. And it's our philosophy that we should start at the bottom, at the people with the most barriers, and through honorable service, we can take care of everybody. Because if we take care of the folk, if we have solutions that work for the person who has a substance use disorder, a mental health condition, physical disability, a prison record, or any other kind of barrier, we assume and we build our programming around the idea that the next person who walks in the door is going to have all of those things, and they're going to be medically fragile. And to the extent of our resources, we're going to help them with as much dignity and with as much good grace as we can muster. So, because this is a serious response to a serious problem, we begin with a contract. And contracting is a helpful intervention because nobody likes to be told what to do. Anyone like to be told what to do? I know I don't. But if we agree to do something, then if someone reminds us what we agreed to do, that is a lot less onerous. Actually, before I get into the contract, if you flip it over, it says crisis shelter intake. Volunteers don't do intakes. The shelter is managed by the shelter manager, my brother and business partner, John Trapp, who has an excellent resume, but he's very humble. So I'll just say that he's a little frazzled because he's done a lot of the groundwork and is, I believe, nothing short of heroic. But he told me not to say stuff like that. So when we bring people into an intake, we want to stress that we're not a charity. Some charities take folks who are unsheltered and they give them this thing called a hotel voucher, and then folks, enjoy that respite and they kick it at the hotel room. And that's not we're running a program that is embedded in a safety net, affordable housing, long-term rental hotel. So right off the bat, because they've all had hotel vouchers, most of our program participants, so we say this is not a hotel voucher. This is a program. You're joining a program, and we are not a charity. We're a self-help group, and out of that self-help, there are two effective kinds of self-help mutual aid organizations. There are anarchists who have been partnering in this community and the lives of struggling people and doing great work. And then there's also what's usually considered the self-help community, AA, NA, all of the recovery people who selflessly do the kinds of things that I, as a paid professional, used to make a pretty good living doing as a substance use disorder counselor. So we want to highlight that there are 4 hard and fast rules. We don't endanger any person or the group. We're not ruthless utilitarians, but because of the nature of the day, we have to ensure that we protect the safety of the group. And mostly that's sanitizing surfaces, washing hands, keeping social distance. But then also sometimes folks with a lot of barriers engage in other kinds of problematic activities. So we want to give people a heads up. We're a no barrier to entry shelter. So we accept people based on need and availability, with the most vulnerable considered first, but we don't quiz for a lot of things that would rule people out. So because we have that kind of environment embedded in a hotel that already had 90 guests, most of who are kind of struggling folks, the working poor, individuals with disability who are paying a lot of money, we try to ensure that we're not putting the program, the hotel, or ourselves at risk. So we have 4 cardinal rules is what we call them in another program. We haven't used that phrase, but do not endanger any person or the group. Do participate in daily check-ins and circles. So check-ins are where we check in with you, see how you're doing, and then we also do temperature, and we do a symptoms, very simple symptom. Do you have any unusual shortness of breath or unusual coughing? Since I mentioned check-in, we'll do one. We're not going to do the temps and the other things. Check-in, we'll just say briefly, we'll go around just real quick. So as a facilitator, I know kind of the mood of the group, and if we could say our name and how we feel. And that seems like a simple thing, but I'll tell you, it's a struggle for a lot of folks. And good words to avoid because they don't actually provide content. Good, fine, okay, all right. Another good word to avoid is tired. Tired is often a body feeling. If I'm hungry, that's not my emotion. My emotion is I'm irritable and crabby. So I'll start, and I'm Mike, and I'm calm, peaceful, and focused. And we'll go around. Andy, name and how you feel, sir.
Andrew, I feel overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Oh, thank you, because I keep calling him. That was the closest I came to his name, but I'm getting better. Andrew, thank you.
I'm Renee, and I'm feeling grateful.
Awesome. A lot of power and gratitude.
Hi, my name is Nikki, and I'm feeling motivated.
Motivated. Good.
I'm Craig, and I am enthusiastic and
Excellent.
excited.
Excellent. I was enthusiastic and excited last time, and now we have to retake the video.
My name is Heather, and I am feeling blessed and also motivated.
Excellent. I love blessed because it's a special form of gratitude's a powerfully useful emotion, but blessed means of special favor. And so even in these troubled times, she's of special favor. No doubt. Me too. Thank you. And please.
My name is Matt. I am feeling motivated.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Flo, and I'm feeling calm.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. There's a lot of fear just already and everywhere, and everything is in crisis, and so we've seized that opportunity to try to make the world a more just and better place for our folks, our neighbors who are unsheltered and struggling a little bit, and it's a great honor to get to do that. So when we do an intake, we explain the 4 rules. Oh, I've only done 2. So we're embedded in the lowest cost hotel in town, and whichever hotel has the lowest room rate, a lot of individuals with a lot of complicated problems kind of come to their door. And so we don't want to, the hotel has been kind enough, and we must never say its name, it's been revealed. They've taken, they haven't even invoiced us yet. They've just opened up on faith and a promise. And so we want our program participants to follow the hotel rules. The hotel cash flows not through this program, but they cash flow by the folks who pay the room rent. And I've looked under the hood and saw the numbers, and it takes a lot to operate this place, and they do it with a skeleton crew, and it barely makes money. And so we don't want to repay the gratitude of them opening our door by causing them a lot of unnecessary grief and problems. And we do want to prevent the spread of the virus. We highlight those are our 4 key rules. And then after we do that, because we might have to remind folks, because they have complicated lives and other things going on, people get overwhelmed, and so people, it's easier to remind someone of what they agreed to do than tell them what to do. I work a lot of repetition into what I do so that you will remember things. So often I will repeat myself, and it's not unintentional, but I'm teaching. So we review the contract with the guest. I'll go out that, but we highlight that we're not giving them a hotel room. We're accepting them as a guest in our shelter. And so we're really operating it as similar to Room at the Inn or Ratty, as people who plug in on that great community-led opportunity. Flo, would you grab the box of Kleenex for me and put it here so I could, out of the camera view, so I could wipe my nose without saying, that guy said you shouldn't touch your face, and then he rubbed his nose. That was, they're right over there. On the far, against the far left, to the left, the other table, Flo, the other table. Oh, you got one. She was right, and I was wrong. Thank you. Appreciate you. So we have a Stop the Spread of Germs handout. We explain the difference between isolation and quarantine. And we highlight that, you know, we maintain as best, you know, sanitary practices and hand washing as we can, but through our best efforts, the coronavirus might creep in, and so we want to be able to prepare people ahead of time for the idea that they might have to spend a good long time in their room. And I'll get more into that when we get into it. We collect minimal personal information. You know, we're bootstrapping ourselves up, and we're building safeguards. Mostly we're protecting ourselves through radical transparency and total honesty, and because we don't have time to build the traditional bureaucratic safeguards through nonprofits and government and other institutions who do these kinds of things. We're not a charity, we're not a social service agency, we're not a government. Most of those service providers have been taken off the board by various factors, and so we're trying to fill a need with grit and determination and a can-do attitude. Operation Safe Winter, I'll make a plug. They were doing this before it was cool, and they've also been super helpful and are a model to us, and we honor their presence. So we provide guests with handouts and a copy of the contract, and then we assure them that we're all in this together. You know, some of us feel overwhelmed, but this is a nothing helps with troubling times than coming together around an important purpose and doing important work. And as we get more volunteer help, we'll be doing more fun programming, and we're going to have a good time. We'll get Renee to break out the costumes, and we'll do parades and all with social distance and all kinds of essential work to ensure that folks get educated and the support they need to make good choices. So let them know that we're going to do the best that we can so that we can all get safely through this healthcare crisis. On the back is the shelter contract, and so we're all coming together to make sure everyone has a place to stay during this health crisis. You know, a lot of folks, the unsheltered, were in crisis before anyone ever heard of the coronavirus, and they unfairly have to bear the weight of this when they don't get to fly around on airplanes or hang around with the international jet set. But they're going to suffer the most, and they've been least accommodated for our planning practices. And as a city council representative, I own a portion of that. I've been an advocate for these issues, but in hindsight, I wish I would have done more so that ensure that our planning processes were more robust. As they have, I've said in many a grant application that we have a fractured and scattered, hard to navigate social service system, in spite of having a huge number of, you know, the most robust services per population, certainly in the state of Missouri. And under that fractured system has collapsed under the weight of the healthcare emergency, and we're stepping into the gap. So to keep us all safe, we will follow these rules. No violence or threats of violence. We're going to listen to staff. Sometimes when we had less help and in our early days, we would sometimes be a little snappy or irritable, you know, trying to teach people about social distance, you know. And I got off track. If I get off track, let me know that I'm losing my thread. Thank you. So what was the last rule that you recall? Listen to staff. Thank you. I just needed a moment. No smoking indoors. That's obvious. No damage to the hotel or neighborhood. We really promote that you wash your hands frequently and upon request. Hand sanitizer is great, but soap is our tool and hand washing is our religion. I'm getting really on top of it. I'm bleaching my surfaces. I'm bringing these practices that we do here at the hotel, whose name we must never speak, lest we crush our beautiful project under the weight of need and people who are interested in the spectacle of it. We ask you to follow all safety guidelines. We're keeping that one general because, you know, they're emerging in response to the crisis. If we bend the curve with what we're doing, that would be awesome. If things let up, we will let up. If things tighten down, we will tighten down. We're preparing for all of those potential futures. We ask our participants to maintain 3 to 6 feet of distance from everyone all the time. It's a little strange way to run a program. We hug like this, and the person across, and give you a hug. We ask you that you clean your room and keep it safe. That's sanitizing your surfaces, and we have to avoid clutter. They're small rooms. We're asking. It's difficult times. We're asking for people to help out as they are able, and I'm really wrestling with that, is having the bare minimum needs to maintain a safe environment versus where people are at. A lot of our folks either don't know about the virus, they don't believe in it, and that's not just true with the populations that we serve, but across the board. But we are not interested we never argue, we don't care what people believe. These are our program guidelines, and everyone follows them. We would like to keep 6 feet of distance, but we're struggling with the 3 to 6 feet, so when we get that in good place, then we'll shoot for 6. So striving for adequacy. We're actually there. We have a lot of cool elements, and for being a very rapid response effort, I'm very proud of where we're at right now programmatically. We ask people to follow all the hotel rules, to not disturb their neighbors or other hotel guests. No guests without prior staff okay, that everyone comply with any quarantine order. We're trying to set the stage for the future when we have very restrictive rules that carry the force of law upon all citizens. So we're trying to do some education about isolation and quarantine. We ask that we take temperatures. We have a no-touch thermometer. A gracious donor who I'd put out a call for a no-touch thermometer, called me about another matter, and I said, "Are you calling about my thermometer?" And he said, "No, I wanted to talk about something else." I'm like, "I'm really busy, but I'll give you 45 seconds." and he made his pitch, and I'm like, "All right, I'll see what I can do, but I don't know." And then he sent me a message back, not saying, "Boy, Mike, you're pretty curt," but he sent me a screenshot of a high-level no-touch thermometer, and he's put it on order from Amazon. So everybody's pulling together, and I'm real proud of our community, for sure. So we talk about unusual coughing and unusual shortness of breath because, a lot of our folks are longtime smokers and individuals with co-occurring disorders. On average, in Missouri, and co-occurring disorders means a substance use disorder and a mental health condition. They almost always run together, and they're both secondary symptoms of adverse childhood events and childhood trauma. And so it's no wonder we see them together, and they're the walking wounded. I lost my thread there. So we're helping them be ready for a quarantine order should that come down. Unusual coughing or unusual shortness of breath. So a lot of them smoke. Folks with mental illness die younger because of their health habits. So, a lot of them smoke cigarettes, and that's a tough thing. So we see a lot of coughing and shortness of breath already. So we say unusual coughing, unusual shortness of breath. We ask them to comply with the 10 p.m. curfew. They don't have to be in by 10 if they're doing essential work on being out. They can come back later, but they can come back quietly. And we're in a undisclosed location, but it's an old holodome. If you were of my age and got to go to those when you were a kid, it's a really neat vintage building with a lot of potential. So it has the dome space, and so we just don't want people to be loud in the dome at night and disturb our guests and cause trouble for the hotel, who's been gracious enough to host us and has not yet even invoiced us and gave us an excellent rate. I'm really proud of them, and we want to honor them by not saying their name so that they have not had more kind of extraneous traffic than they need. They're not big fans of the media. They're not kind to what I call safety net housing, which is long-term lease hotels. This is true in every community, the lowest priced hotel. You hit a good one when there's social services posted on when you register for the hotel. I'm a budget traveler, so I've stayed in a lot of this kind of affordable housing, and it's always a quirky and interesting place, and our undisclosed hotel is no different. We ask people to be kind and respectful to hotel staff. To make this place cash flow, they run it on a skeleton crew and do their best. And they're like amateur social workers, and they're really beautiful people, and it's been really fun to be in this with them. So one of the things we teach our volunteers is that we don't bug or ask hotel staff for anything, that they're busy. If there's no other way to meet that need, or you have permission of staff or manager to bug the hotel staff, then you stand behind the blue line by the hotel desk and you wait patiently, however long it takes until they're available. And then when they ask you if they can help you, then you clearly state what you need, and we try to not bug them. And we try to teach our folks not to bug them. But a lot of times, folks who they want to present like they're staying in a hotel, and you expect traditional hotel amenities, but that was not the deal I brokered. I brokered bare space. They brought rooms out of mothballed, and we did not displace anyone, but we added mothballed rooms because we for this program, and we can do nothing but be grateful for this wonderful hotel stepping out on faith. So we may ask people to leave if they don't follow the rules. That's hard to do in a dangerous world, but we have to protect the safety of the group. We're low barrier, so we might let someone in the future, but there may not be space. So we want to tell people that up front, so they know that the protection of the group is paramount. Most staff are unpaid volunteers, and thanking them is the only right thing to do. You'll appreciate that as a volunteer. Everyone gets told not to, you're not their hotel concierge. So we ask them up front to give you the courtesy and respect that all you can do is volunteers are gravy. That was as a manager and runner of things that people would volunteer at. Anything a volunteer does is additive, to your paid efforts, and you should only humbly accept that gift and say thank you. Staff cannot allow any person to put any person or the group in danger. That's a tough thing, but sometimes I've managed scarce resources. It's a hard thing to do, but sometimes you have to ask people to leave even if they don't have any great alternative. As much as we can, we safety plan around that. We provide other resources, but most of the resource providers have been crippled or paralyzed, and we're struggling to do what we're doing, and sometimes we have to make abrupt, quick decisions. In case management, when it's coming at you more than you can handle, and this only happens to staff, not to volunteers, they call that hot action, and you just have to focus on what you're doing, do the most important thing first, let everything else go, and we'll all get through this. So we say, I agree to follow all the rules. I commit to make this community work. So we're building a community in partnership with the people that we serve. It's a really neat thing, and it's been amazing. I don't want to think too much about it and get too emotional. That's been the bane of me this week. Let's see. I'm going to pass out this one. I only have 4, and Randy, this has been around. Andrew, there's only been 4. If you would pass both of those on down, because we'll get a chance to get more. Flo, if you would do the same, and Matt already has one, so we're golden. If we pass those to our first timers, that'd be great. That's a lot of great information about COVID and the coronavirus and things that you might want to know directly from the source. We don't use those for our program participants because it's a wall of text. It's probably, I didn't read it, but it's probably at a 16th grade language. I'm going to pass this out, and this is a more health appropriate for the folks that we serve. This one's called Stop the Spread of Corona Germs, and it's put out by the DHEC. I believe it's South Carolina, their health department. So kudos to them. And it's the one with the pictures if it gets turned over in the passing. So to stop, so you can see this is health literacy. It's less than 6-word sentences, useful pictures and tables. It's plain language, and it's accessible. A lot of our folks have literacy issues, and we want to meet them where they're at. So we want to know, what are the symptoms? We look for a fever. We take temperatures. We have volunteers that do that. You'll get lots of volunteer opportunities, and you'll be able to find something in your comfort level. There's lots of ways that you can be helpful at home. We don't want to create any bottlenecks, so we do ask you to not call the hotel, to not call Mike Trapp or John Trapp, or email them or Facebook message them, because I had to unplug my phone, and I put a good couple hours into trying to clear, and I'm still got my city council emails that from days ago. And if you know me, I'm a righteous city council representative who is quick to respond, forward things on to our diligent staff who actually do all the hard work that makes the city run. And you can generally expect a response with me, generally within hours. Now I'm focused on managing this health crisis from the bottom up, and I'm going to get to that stuff for our other constituents as I'm able. So if you're watching this and you're one of my constituents or someone who's like, wow, I wonder why Trapp's not getting back to me, I've been pretty busy. So how do we prevent COVID? You know, COVID-19 is the disease, coronavirus is the virus, and that's, you know, so we try to speak with precision. How is it prevented? Hand washing. Soap is our tool. Hand washing is our religion. Hand sanitizer is great. There was a big run on that, but it's nowhere near as good as soap and as thorough hand washing. And there's not enough hand sanitizer to go around, although there are local solutions developing, which shows the value of craft industries. And we're really grateful and humbled that those folks have made that happen. But it's also can be a trigger for people who have substance use disorders. I know one of my fellows that I've worked with I would say his drug of choice is hand sanitizer. And that's the gelatinous stuff. It's a common prison behavior where alcohol is very constrained. It's that or homemade hooch. I won't give the recipe, but so people drink stuff, and so you want to think structure for safety. Think about, because we don't want to lose all of our hand sanitizer because it's a precious commodity that people donated, and we also don't want to contribute unnecessarily to substance use disorder. So we wash our hands, and we wash our hands, and we wash our hands. And when you leave the hotel, when you get home, wash your hands. So we avoid touching our eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands. In my last training, I said the next person who can do that will be the first, but I've since used a Kleenex to wipe my nose twice, and I'm confident that I'm learning that health behavior that I previously thought was impossible, because I'm getting better at it the more I try, and I'm enjoying the possibilities of this new, cleaner, and more sanitized world. We want to avoid contact with sick people, to the extent we can, and do essential services. So when you engage as a volunteer in the Como pop-up shelter, which is, does someone know the web address by heart? ComoCrisisShelter.com. That's how if you want to plug in, if you want more information, we're going to continue to grow that as we're able, and as our off-site volunteer base grows and meets the needs. They're doing great. We're building our capacity day by day. I want to grow as fast as the virus. That's why I shared a lot of stuff. Some folks said I overshared and might have called out unnecessary trouble, but I wanted to raise an alarm, call to action, and show people by setting an example that you can think up an idea and 4 days later have a crisis shelter. 5 days later have food at the crisis shelter. 6 days later have all of the basics covered and a couple of volunteers shadowed and trained. 7 days later have your first volunteer training with it, even though you're a professional trainer. But nonetheless you get some volunteers, and then you just get better, and that's what we're doing. The virus demands quick action and decisive action, and that's why a two-person LLC with a relatively modest annual budget, I believe, has put together the most effective response to the coronavirus for struggling people that I'm aware of. I worked really hard. I'm going to pat myself on the back. So stay home while you are sick and avoid others. That's just great advice in general. And cover your mouth or nose with a tissue or sleeve. Tissues have only just arrived in the hotel. Thank you to our generous donors for Kleenexes. We were teaching this. Long sleeves would be better, but the room is warm, and I am impeccable in my sanitation and hygiene practices. My mom would be so proud of me that she'd never seen me in fresh clothes every day with a shower and washing my hands 20 times a day at least, and cleaning my house, sanitizing my surfaces, lecturing my housemates horribly about clearing off surfaces so we can keep them sanitized. Don't put that down on the table, I just sanitized that. It's like, that's my clean room. So we clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. We primarily use diluted bleach. We may have some access to some higher level cleaners, but just I like to do replicable services, and almost everything that you need to do to manage this this healthcare catastrophe can be quite managed nicely with soap, bleach, and information. And that's what we're largely built on. How am I doing on time? Does anyone have to leave early or on time? Because I might run a little bit late.
I'm set to volunteer at 4.
Oh, okay. I will try to pick this up. If you'll flip it over, you'll see the sheet, the difference between isolation and quarantine. In an excess of caution, we want to prepare for any isolation and quarantine issues. In spite of our rigorous attempts at containing a clean environment, the virus could still creep in. I have seen it happen to better funded, better planned organizations with huge budgets. So it could happen here. And isolation is for people who are sick. So if we're doing 2 person for a room at the hotel, and if one person gets sick, they go into isolation, and their poor roommate, who might have been impeccable, they go into quarantine. Quarantine is when you've been exposed to the virus. Isolation is when you have the virus. And I'm using that specifically about COVID. I'm going to move quickly and won't have time for questions this training, but we will circle back because this gentleman has important work that he needs to do. What does a volunteer do at the Como Crisis Center? We clean and sanitize. We're a meritocracy, so we start at the bottom and we work our way up, and this is true for everybody. I'll try to get through our task list so I can tell you a little bit about our philosophy. We clean and sanitize. We stand ready. This is what I'm trying to promote, is clearing the path. It comes out of Mike Mathis's strategic planning thing. When people are in the whirlwind and they're not getting their important tasks done, other people should step up and clear their path, help manage. And no greater whirlwind has emerged in my lifetime than the whirlwind that all of us are struggling to manage and make big changes, and all of us are unsettled and afraid, and I wish I could give everybody a hug and tell them it's going to be okay. So it's going to be okay. We're managing this. I've seen some positive good news. If we continue to be vigilant, we have reasons to be cautiously optimistic from what I've been told. I have not been able to follow the news for a few years. No, a few days. You stand ready as a volunteer. You just wait until a staff person who's all of our, right now we have 2 managers, one of whom is off-site mostly. That's me trying to do higher level stuff. And I just became emotionally compromised and needed to take myself out of the game for a few days. But I have been restored, and I should be back in pocket within a couple days and take the load off John. If you see John and he looks a little frazzled, a little overwhelmed, or he's a little curt, know that he's been doing 10 people's work nonstop. He's brilliant, and he's dedicated, and I wish I could be more like him because he does his task list. He sleeps for 5 hours, and he gets up and he builds website infrastructure and donation infrastructure, and then he comes and manages the shelter all day. He tries to get a break to see his partner, but instead he just pulled her into our project so he doesn't have to go home to see her. And then he comes home, and then he clears emails and messages, and that's why, unless it's absolutely necessary in the highest order you've been invited, you must never email or call John. It comes out of his sleep time, and I hope to get him a day off. That's why I'm taking care of myself and prioritizing self-care and taking care of the home so that he can come home to a peaceful environment. We live together in our family home that I've used to jokingly call the Leslie Lane Family Living Center, but now it is. And I used to be the dad, and John was the mom, but now I'm a single mom, and I've got my adult kids living at home who are on their way to their careers and are doing great and helping out, and we're a nice family unit. I'm going to add a house elf when I can, or maybe a housekeeping staff or a so that they can stand ready to help me, so that I can do higher level and planning work, so that I can try to do justice to my difficult city council job. So what do volunteers do? They divert crowds. They let Mike know when he's been distracted and he's rambling. They accept donations because the community has been kind and generous. We've got a lot of stuff. We're careful about call to action, so go to the ComoCrisisShelter.com website to know how to help out, because we put out we don't want to drown in Kleenex. We go from no Kleenex to we have limited storage space, so we try not to rally the community unnecessarily. We deliver meals. Volunteers take temperatures and do health screenings. They answer questions. They provide support. They do troubleshooting. They put out fires that happen. And as we get experience on the ground and greater competency, we'll give higher level work. And we may not be able to pay you because we've not worked out funding for any of this, and we're just operating on faith and paying it out of our own pockets. And it'll all work out in the end. We have to move quickly. We may call you staff, but we may not pay you. But when you're staff, you have the ability to decide who stays in the community and who has to go, and those other highest level decisions that we're reserving for paid staff. Right now, our paid staff are John is the on-site manager. I am the off-site program manager. I thank the City of Columbia for stretching themselves to allow me to do so as a city council person. It certainly caused some difficulty, but I think it's working out great now. And then we also have Room at the Inn, or Ratty as affectionately calls it. We have some paid staff from Ratty. They're going to be covering the midnight shift. We have one part-time Ratty member right now, and we're going to add Jim, who we love, full-time midnight staff, and then we're going to be safe and humming at night. Jim is cool, chill, and relaxed and competent. I see all the people who know Jim nodding their heads sagely. We operate under what I call a brand new emergent best practice that I made up this afternoon called Emergent Modified Therapeutic Community. I'll be real brief, but therapeutic communities are an institutional treatment, what they do in prisons. If you have important volunteer tasks, you're welcome to leave. I'm going to continue for the sake of the video. Oh, in 3 minutes? You got 3 more minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Great. So we're not going to use the therapeutic community language with our program participants, because some folks, but what I like about the therapeutic community model is the community is the method of change. And so that is powerful. The community is the method of change, and that's just not helping struggling people, but it's changing our systems and our ways of doing things and our language to be more inclusive and more helpful, and to better include all of our struggling individuals with multiple barriers who up to this point have not been well served. But I'm committed to seeing that this healthcare emergency wakes us up to that, and that is important for all of our safety, that our most struggling folks are cared for well. And that's my secret mission, that because folks who are unsheltered were in crisis before anyone ever heard of COVID. So some people don't like the therapeutic community because there's it's peer-led and it's strict and it's regulated, because structure and routine is awesome. But it's also can be barky at you, and it's peer, and they do these confrontations. But they also do these social correction that I'm trying to get instituted, because we're teaching people to enforce social distance, and this is all of us, volunteers, staff, visitors. And so we say, out of care and concern, and then we say, so you would say, out of care and concern, I would ask you to use hand sanitizer before you touch that item. And then the correct answer when someone checks you is thank you for the social awareness. So, for example, I called Andrew everything except Andrew, and Andrew would be well within his right the next time I do it, because we're friends now, to say, Mike, out of care and concern, could you please call me by my correct name? And instead of saying, Andrew, I'm trying to save the world, can't you just roll with me, buddy? Instead, I would say, thank you for the social awareness. I'll try to do better on that, Andrew. I thank you for bringing it to my attention. So on the first day of shelter opening, nope, it was day 2 of the shelter opening, there's a brother in recovery who's got that shining light of someone who's on track, and you can sometimes see a literal glow about people who have had difficult lives but are now on fire for self-improvement and helping people out. He checked me on something, which is cool, like on his first day, and I said, thank you for the social awareness. And he didn't say anything, but I could see his face lit up, and I knew that he had been in institutional treatment and had gotten something good out of it. The downside is prison systems are coercive, of course, and I've already preached on that, and I will skip for the brevity of time. So out of therapeutic communities, modified therapeutic communities operated, and I worked at Phoenix Programs for 10 years, who has really mastered that evidence-based practice locally. They've worked with the people who developed it, and they took therapeutic communities, and the research showed that people with mental health conditions did not do well in those programs. And they learned that we need to be kinder, that we need to do things in shorter pieces, hour-and-a-half group. No. How about a 30-minute group? How about a 20-minute group? And but it still has that rigorous structure, because a structured life is good orderly direction. It's a good way to, in Phoenix we talk about right living. I sometimes say but I left that to start my own adventures 3 years ago. But when I was there, we would say we make our beds in the morning, we don't wear hats when we're inside. If we are 5 minutes early to everything, that's why I'm kind of rigorous, like, I'm not going to wrap up my group, because in Phoenix, you're not allowed for your group to run over because there's another group coming, and you have to start on time and end on time. So it's a neat program, and it's my favorite evidence-based practice because it's open source, and so I don't like to buy information, and so anything I do that has a group living component, I always call it a modified therapeutic community, because I like kind, I like social correction. If anyone has a better term to call it than that, I would like something that's simpler and kinder but still tells the same thing. So I've taken modified further for crisis rescue shelters, which are, we're not a rigorous treatment program able to enforce people, and it would be inappropriate to bounce someone from our program into a health emergency because of a minor rule violation. So what I'm calling the emergent modified therapeutic community, we're just going to call the MTC, but we're going to spell it EMTC, and it's empty, see? Because we've emptied the shelter, because we're not just sheltering people, but we're providing a place and coaching and resources to develop a self-identified plan of recovery, or how to live your miracle, your best life in the way that you want to, on your own time, when you're ready. And we will provide, to the extent we're able, support and resources to make that happen. And so no one has ever done anything so cool, and in spite of this being a healthcare crisis, I'm an opportunist, and I see an opportunity to try out a new thing. I believe in autonomy. I believe in radical acceptance. I believe in meeting people where they're at. I believe in plain language communication, and I veered from that today for the sake of the video and all of our educated folks who are going to watch this on video and plug into our efforts. If I spoke over your head, next time you come back to this training, I will deliver the same training with pared down language that makes sure I didn't leave anybody behind. But our program is entirely voluntary and self-directed. If you don't want to participate in our programming, we will assertively offer it every day. We're offering people who are just guests in the hotel to participate in our program and learn about hand washing and sanitation and we're giving out meals and supplies as we have extra to our other struggling people who are not in our program, because we're building goodwill so that we can be their trusted ally when we tell them that, hey, maybe we could wash our hands better and keep ourselves safer. So at the end, I went 2 minutes over, so I apologize for that. For those who are watching this by video, we appreciate you for participating. If you want to show that you have completed the volunteer training, our secret word question is, what comes first? Anyone hazard a guess? What comes first? Cause? That's a good answer, but it's not our answer. At this point, you'll edit it out of the video, so we'll want... No, you can leave it in the video, because if they've seen the video, they're ready to sign up to be a volunteer. The answer is, what comes first? Safety first. That's a crisp call and response that we're only now teaching people, so we'll do it all together now that you know what the answer is. What comes first?
Safety first.